But in Philippines, many of them are loyal to the country. They are not about civil society. In Vietnam, they are loyal to the country. They are in the system because of in case any disputes in a village or whatever, they cannot sort out because the police will not bother. So they are willing to the Lao to sort out any differences. It's all not about fighting. Just in case if there's any dispute between the neighbors, that kind of situation. Is to have unity in Vietnam. In Philippines, is to have unity in Philippines. In Malaysia, Muslim, is to have unity in the country. The Chinese also try to form a unity with money. That's how they rule the world all these years, more than 50 years. Right? Even here last time, the merchants, all this, they unite everybody with the money. In Philippines, also got certain percentage of Chinese. I'm not talking about Chinese national, overseas Chinese. 海外同胞, overseas Chinese. They've been migrating many years. They also unite many people in Philippines with the money. But the Philippines are appreciative because they are for the government. They want to know what the Chinese community is doing in Philippines, in Vietnam, in Singapore, or whatever. And then the world is bound to have to not spy to see what we are doing. But this thing has evolved into something that is changing. They are anti-government. They are using the Chinese civilization to destroy it and try to push the blame that the Chinese civilization destroy everybody. They also try to play politics, and sometimes for America, just pretend it's fun, but actually work for China. Because many years ago, there were gay activities, illegal activities. And I have no image of who. Is it Mr. A or Mr. A or Mr. B? I got no. I don't have one. They keep insisting that I'm talking about them. They keep insisting I'm talking about, you know, 老大 A, 老大 B, or whatever. And I have no image of them. And I'm live streaming and talking, they say I'm talking to myself. You see, all this process, I will manage to go through all this. For what? I also don't understand. Am I delaying myself all these years? I'm not. That's why I say it's a human perception. You see this is one angle. Other people see it from different angles. Even the same person sitting here seeing the same thing. Maybe on different way of looking at everything. So don't always think that this they hear this everybody. Oh, they are following the Chinese civilization. 大家听到 they are if they are wrong, they want to bring everybody down to the depths of hell. Just the same. It creates this system on them which is weakness. That's why I said it's the human device we get that syncs and coordinate with the Chinese civilization. I said this when I was in 15. I thought they knew everything about what I see. They don't get it. It seems 这个不可以，因为不能 skill。And when you go outside, because Singapore temporary, try to show their temporary link to America. Or see the Chinese all 傻子 and that's why there was a fight and all these things happening. Everybody go back to their respective link to the other civil society or don't link at all and this and that and this. Everybody know what is going on. You can't fool. You don't have to educate. You don't have to explain. You don't have to create story. You don't have to create politics. I tell all these people, don't do all this nonsense. Everybody knows. Those that have connect. Mhm. The government, the government say you are doing for good. Singapore government must be true. They are not loyal. Who are loyal to do all this stuff? Maybe they can say, uncle, we are back on ex-civil society, ex-convicts, ex-etc. But again, ex really, their past is past already. So what? Everybody can have that past. Just move on. Doesn't mean it scars means that people will always say them as condemned for life. There are people who became doctors. You ask them, so what is your past job? Oh, I was to treat my kid. Oh my god, you're a doctor. Say they don't know what you mean. Many of them, taxi driver, last time I am taxi driver, you know, academics, doctors, and many options of people. If people are not able to in that kind of in between, sandwich in between, that's the one. But they want to blame others or criminals to do against other people's people to make them feel good. And what about the victim? Every day going through good. They have their own life to live. Everybody has their own life. Oh, please don't stay here, faster. After that, go. Di macam cool. Play game. Level 60就是差的 level 2then continue play at home. Oh, this 下了做工，那个是礼拜四做工。It's not that the world is unfair. It's that you not take consider and the lesser has actually of the organization is creating a wider divide between lesser. People can enjoy in Starbucks. You can sit there. I cannot sit there and enjoy in Starbucks. Strange. What are you going to do? The lesser. 哎呀，啲office 啊，你嗰邊啊，你到攰啊，就為了我過境考啊，冇變 I drive Mercedes 啊，但是 I drive Audi 啊，還是 The world is fair if people try to make it fair. We are not living in the Indian caste system. So in the end of the day, there are more unfortunate things happening, not on it's on the masses or individual, not single out, but in the masses in a fair level. They are negative. They are negative in everybody. You see, whether like GST and many other taxes. If you hate the government, then you will want to hate people and use the device to cause the hate on the victim. Why want to cause hate on the victim? Why want to activate their inactivated services? All this they know, but why don't they go out educating or tell this always consider mind this what is good. So I don't like to clash with people. I'm not trying to educate people. I've done it in the internet internet gaming cafe. I didn't score them, but they followed me and actually just played with me because he knew that's true. So they themselves when keep trying to tell, hey, include stop doing that, stop imagining. Go and see the psychiatrist. My name is not included. Really? Because humans, insanity is when human sender and human receiver do not have image of themselves or others and they believe in it. Why they want people to believe in it? Even a psychiatrist I can tell psychiatrist, go and see a psychiatrist, go and see another psychiatrist. Because in the end of the day, they cannot break this one. They don't they are not able to they are in this flawed, they'll continue to be flawed forever. So this is why you must compare educate everybody. The weakness, the three weakness of the human brain. Insanity is when humans center and military. So an image of themselves. And that's why China and America war, or America and China war, or Russia and Ukraine war. If they want to stop it, maybe they receive order from China, 不要让战争跟事情into I'm not I don't bother whether the war is terrorism, but I'm saying the human brain, human between human and non-human, number two, when it sleeps, the mind sleeps, so you follow all the instruction. It's the mind, not the person. The mind wakes up because the person established common sense, logic, and wisdom in the mind, and that also the ethics, norms, and principles of positivity. Everybody has principles of positivity, depending on each individual, a certain percentage. Why you want the no principle? Everybody will have principle. You ask the Thailand, every black there's a white. Because they are human, they are not made of steel. Whether they are hard or whether they are mind, they are not made of wires, are not made of steel. As long as the device is not everybody uses artificial world. They themselves, why don't you stop not using the device? Right? Why they play politics? Everything, give all the answers to everybody. Everyone can heal, all the human devices can heal for themselves and be the judge. Not pulling the rank. Example, they are all in the same, as the same judge, in the same level, and not pulling the rank. Right? Number three, the one I said again, mind relax. The mind, not the person. It's the mind. That's the witness of all the human beings. Not the all of them are the same. Number three, when people see and hear, they think they connect, but actually it's not connected. Because it goes to the first one. What's the percentage of connectivity they think they are connected? Hey, you're talking to me, or it means you're talking to me. Sometimes people talk, I also don't hear. Sometimes it was like that time got one person who was talking to a friend, right? And what? I also don't know what is going on. Talking to me. It seems like only he and I and that time maybe someone was quite far. How is it? Then they hear the music is correct. Can prove no. Cannot prove. And what they want is to love them. The device will destroy everybody can do it. The hypnotic device will also destroy everybody if they are in use. That's all. Everybody is being destroyed ever since they are born. You know, why don't you use the poison immediately? It is an addiction. Okay? Do not invite people, they are addicted to using the device. You tell them today, the whole day don't use or not, can. I doubt they can. I'm very sure. This is the final test for all of them. You don't let to use them for 1 hour, they are in that 1 hour, okay. After 1 hour, 6 hours, a teenager, will do nothing. Like smoking, don't smoke for 6 hours. It's sad. What caused that chemical? It's their urge inhibition, uncle. Disarm themselves and talk about people's urge inhibition. They look at people's urge. It's actually their urge inhibition. They work on other people's urge inhibition. Then what is the urge inhibition? Do not, according to hypothesis, this. What is the chemical name? Do not know. They say already. That's how they. I never say they say, but other people will say. Nobody is self-rating until proven in court. Am I fair to everybody? I'm fair to everybody, because they must go through the basic of all these principles, all this common sense logic and reasoning. Everything must be proven in court. You ask the psychiatrist who a psychiatrist, they are all, can you accuse them? No. Because in the school of psychology, in the psychiatrist room, there's no such thing as self-recency. Mental problem ABCDE, and all the mental problem all can be different. I always say if someone commit crime, you use 5 different psychiatrists or psychiatrists all over the world. They determine wrongly. It's not specific. It's very general. Oh, he got this, but not specific. But if you look at the chemicals and you're able to understand the gene evolution and the gene elements, you find that it's caused by certain chemicals, whether it's internal or external. Are you able to find it? You know, it's only the source psychologists that are trying to find a punishment to reduce their sentence. To keep you being one in the end, you kill somebody motivated by them. Like I say, hey, I'm not about to go and see the judge. Hey, you judge the fellow commits suicide. No, he's the one that caused him the whole jump down already. He never he say reverse, the reality thinking he want to jump down. And he jumped down and he died. And then in the end, it's not connected. Like many things I want to keep blaming all this. And they don't want to control my mind to say connect, no connect, connect, no connect, don't connect that. Why do you want to do all this? Oh, your mind has been connect. Proof. Oh, this is how it is. Then try to prove it. Yeah. They just play and play. Why play? So free. Why don't they go and get more money? I cannot discard that play. Why not they're doing thing? So you see, all this all the part of their ritual or part of their dream or that they have to work stuff. Work. See, this kind of thing 也是个要做你其他人也是没有没有。When more people, everybody in Singapore suffering more than the rest, and everybody say, yeah, the only way is to live on my way. Or if they know how to use because they don't use here to go overseas and they migrate or they use it, they just need another country for protection. And then those people will say, how come the world is not fair? How come they receive so much and the rest of the world they do? Because the people love their country. They don't destroy their own people. Oh, because here a lot of illegal thing you cannot later get caught. Anyone say the police forgetful or even the handcuff will forget. Or their keys they forget. Now they want everybody to see whatever they eat is outside. And then put the basket on the floor, their dog go. And then that means I'm a dog. And then they want everybody to kill in Australia and everything. Or because 中国人但是没有智慧，因为中国人没有的全部，那你不属于。中国人没有，所以他们要独立中国。要 pushing everything that everybody do from single all the way to the earth, all wrong. And that's why some people say God punishment also not and the one who is still destroyed. That's all. What is one is still in answers? Can you see? Can you feel? Can you touch? It's all at once. This is all one. Wisdom is existence and non-existence. So you see, in the end of the day, I'm not going through the process. They want me, hey, now the lesson I haven't go through this lesson, this chapter. Normally, long time ago, I already not involved. The answers is there. Just like the oxygen that we are breathing, it's there, the answer. But we're not able to get the answer. And then someone have to, like me, like a machine, like for example, just an example, a machine has to provide to tell people, or technology provide to tell people that we are breathing oxygen. How much percentage of oxygen that we breathing every second? What kind of oxygen they are breathing? What kind of air they are breathing? And I came out bringing out the to explain to everybody for my. So sometimes I feel that I have to let it be. Because if the world is created, the world is created. If the world is to be destroyed, the world is destroyed. Because wisdom, you have one existence, life of the two, existence. You have positive wisdom and negative wisdom. Wisdom consists of positive. So life of the two exists. So wisdom also and life. When you have life, there is truth. So everything life of the two is in them under the wisdom. You cannot go two under the wisdom. Not say wisdom is a positive. Because the wisdom life of the two is clear. You have the whole and you have the sphere. So wisdom is positive. So it's because of the life, both that and both. Whether it's non-living existence, other livings, or even if you do not have living existence, you're non-living, it's still life like that and people. Like time of shame, universe,
when we were picked up at the airport, a taxi driver immediately gave me a warning. Company to the moon or even Mars, and make some profits along the way. SpaceX is one of the biggest players in an increasingly crowded field of private companies jousting for contracts in a 21st century space race. But while firms like SpaceX and Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin prioritize profit, the more traditional government-funded organizations like the European Space Agency say their priority still remains advancing science and human knowledge.
Space ticks all the boxes. You've got all the short-term benefits, the things that we all use, that we all have, smartphones, the navigation, the weather report. And then you have the more medium-term, I would say, applications. The reason we know today about climate change, the reason we're in a position to fight climate change is thanks to all the missions we send around the Earth and observing the Earth. So that's kind of the more medium terms. Space agency are the champions of fighting against climate change.
Many scientists argue that while private space firms are playing an important role in finding cost savings in space exploration, they will never fully replace the need for publicly funded space organizations like NASA or the ESA.
We're doing things which are very blue sky, they're very much looking at the basics. It's very difficult to make a profit out of it. So in the same way that you would fund an opera house or theatre or other things which are cultural, sport and other things, what we do in the science program here at ESA is very much in that domain.
For space organisations like the ESA, there is often a need to defend and justify huge amounts of public spending to politicians in Parliament, just like that one. And some may argue that that money could be saved and spent elsewhere in space, just left to the private sector. But some recent history shows that we may still be some way away from the private sector taking the lead entirely. British billionaire Richard Branson's Virgin Orbit had sky-high ambitions to revolutionise the way satellites were launched by using a 747 plane instead of a traditional rocket. But those goals came crashing down to earth after financial pressures caused the company to file for bankruptcy, just weeks after it failed to launch a satellite from UK soil. But public space agencies often view such failures as a setback for broader space exploration goals, given the role that relationships and partnerships play in the international space community.
That's our lifeblood, that international thing. And it's a very good thing that we do that because, we're not in an easy world at the moment. There are lots of problems, lots of strife between nations, and bringing people together, who may not all see eye to eye in other areas, but in science, this is something we all think is important and we work together.
We are likely to see more cross-industry collaboration in the global space race, meaning whether it's in Asia, Europe, or the Americas,
And liftoff of Artemis 1.
we can expect many more liftoffs, both private and public, as humankind sets off to explore the next frontier. Trent Murray, CNA, Berlin.
First stage of Tucson after boosters now propelling the vehicle at 128 miles per hour.
And we're going for a break now. In the next hour on Asia First, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol toasts to stronger than ever ties with the U.S. in a historic address on Capitol Hill.
Washington sanctions Russian and Iranian security services for what it calls a pattern of wrongfully detaining Americans.
And Asian stocks heading into the final session of the week on the front foot will keep you on top of the trading action. For the big week for big tech, we'll unwrap the latest earnings scorecards with TD Ameritrade's Alex Coach.
Warm memories wherever you be. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Nowadays, as an urban farmer, there's a lot about rooftop farming. But over the years, things have evolved quite drastically. It looks kind of naive. Like today, the urban farming scene is very different.
Back to urban farm back into everyone's life.
We are entering a great new world. This is a superfood. This is a future food. I'm here to ride this wave of food innovation. And today, I'm a TV farmer going out tonight on TNA.
This Saturday, how Chinese companies are reimagining the businesses of the future from digital healthcare.
能够让用户就医可能当次就能买超衣服。
To wearable technology to supercharge our lives. And small devices that will make big changes to the way we move around cities. Money Mind, Saturday at 10:30 p.m. One last chance. One last chance.
Victor is a legend. Whether he perform or not, you're not for sure.
One last fight at the Jury and Final. Losing Legends. Sunday on CNA.
This is Asia First.
Good morning, it's 8 a.m. here in Singapore. Julie Yu, our top story this hour. The South Korean president hails so stronger than ever a line to Washington in his address to the U.S. Congress. He stresses the need to speed up cooperation with America and Japan to counter North Korea's growing nuclear threat.
We must work together and fight the forces of forceful and deception that seek to destroy democracy and the rule of law.
From Steve Fly also this morning, Sudan's army and rival paramilitary forces have immediately extended a visiting ceasefire amid pressure from Saudi Arabia and the US. On the palace, all the fighting urged the implementation of a de-escalation plan for peace. Plus, Spain may be suffering through its hottest April on record, with temperatures as high as 40 degrees Celsius. This added to the devastation of a prolonged drought, said to be the driest in 1,000 years.
Elizabeth Neal with the business news. Rising inflation in the land once defined by deflation. Home consumer prices climbed 3.5% in Japan, well above the DOJ's official target. Other data unlikely to sway Japan's central bank when it hands down its first decision that zero-rated governorship later this morning. Amazon delivers strong earnings results. The tech giant beats analyst expectations, boosted by strength in its cloud and advertising businesses. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol has hailed 70 years of alliance with the U.S. in his historic address on Capitol Hill.
But he sounded a warning that democracy and freedom for the wider relationship and around the world are at risk due to disinformation and a growing threat from North Korea. Welcome to the standing ovation. Mr. Yoon is the first South Korean leader to address Congress in a decade. He accused North Korea of abandoning freedom and dismissing peace, and vowed that South Korea will be a compass for freedom with the United States.
Our alliance is stronger than ever, more prosperous together, and more connected like no other. Indeed, it has been the linchpin safeguarding our freedom, peace, and prosperity.
Mr. Yoon believes that the alliance against North Korea can be stronger with Japan, calling for their trilateral cooperation to be speeded up. And just a day earlier, he sealed a new deal with the U.S., where Seoul agreed not to pursue its own nuclear weapons in return for more say in decisions if the North attacks. He warned his government will respond promptly to provocations, but also keep the door open for dialogue.
All Pyongyang has to do is to stop its nuclear program and begin a substantive denuclearization process. I once again urge North Korea to cease its provocations and take the right path.
Mr. Yoon's week-long visit will soon draw to a close with trips to the Boston campuses of Harvard and MIT. But before that, we'll then so has more on the South Korean leader's speech to Congress and meetings with top officials.
Well, when it comes to relations, of course, there were plenty of question marks about what kind of reception President Yoon would get from lawmakers. Of course, let's not forget that just 7 months ago, he was overheard calling some US lawmakers idiots, the ones that didn't back the global health program. However, when he entered the chamber of Congress, he received a rousing reception, and it's even upgraded a number of rounds of applause. So certainly no signs of lingering resentment after those comments. When it comes to other events for President Yoon, he also met privately with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken as well as the Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, in some remarks given by the US Secretary of State, he said that this was an opportunity for the US and Korea to not only mark 70 years of their strategic alliance, but also 120 years of Koreans living in America. He said that they've woven into the fabric of America, so very much stressing the importance that Korean culture plays in the United States and how intrinsic this bond really is. Now, we heard from Kamala Harris giving remarks as well, very much pointing to promises made, promises kept as far as she's concerned. When it comes to the Yoon administration, she said that he campaigned on a promise of strengthening an alliance between the two nations. He had achieved that. She also thanked him for a strong stance when it comes to what she described as Russia's unprovoked aggression in Ukraine. and thanked him for standing up for the international-based order.
Meanwhile, China has condemned the recently inked nuclear pact between the U.S. and South Korea. It accused Washington of creating tensions over the Korean peninsula. The foreign ministry says the deal has put regional security at risk and runs counter to the goal of denuclearization.
美方为实现一己地缘私利，置地区安全于不顾，执意在半岛问题上借题发挥，制造紧张。美方的做法充斥冷战思维，挑动阵营对抗，破坏核不扩散体系，损害他国战略利益，加剧半岛紧张局势，破坏地区和平稳定。
Beijing added that all parties should focus on promoting a peaceful settlement on the Korean Peninsula. It's urging for the use of dialogue and consultation in what it calls a complex and sensitive issue.
US officials once again pushing back on the idea of decoupling from China.
Speaking at the Brookings Institution, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says the Biden administration is working to de-risk rather than decouple from China.
We are for de-risking and diversifying, not decoupling. We'll keep investing in our own capacities and in secure, resilient supply chains. We are simply ensuring that U.S. and allied technology is not used against us. We are not cutting off trade. In fact, the United States continues to have a very substantial trade and investment relationship with China. Bilateral trade between the U.S. and China set a new record last year.
Mr. Sullivan also said the export controls are narrowly aimed at the tech that could be used to tilt the military balance against the U.S. Washington has unleashed strict export controls on semiconductor technologies to China, including manufacturing company Huawei. The U.S. deems the firms, which it says has ties to the Chinese government, a threat to national security.
Tensions rise in South China Sea after a near collision between Chinese and Filipino patrol vessels. The high seas face-off happened on Sunday. Philippine officials have asked journalists aboard their ship to delay reporting on the incident for security reasons.
The face-off happened just a day after Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. hosted Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang in Manila, where the two pledged to establish more communication lines to resolve maritime differences.
China has executable funding over islands in the South China Sea after their adjacent water.
The Chinese Coast Guard issued a radio warning to the Filipino ship as the two vessels approached the shallow waters of the Second Thomas Shoal. It is a hotly contested sea channel claimed by several nations, including the Philippines and China.
Beijing has long demanded for the Philippines withdraw its naval forces in the disputed area, which falls within the so-called 9-dash line drawn by China. They radioed back after receiving the warning and told the Chinese Coast Guard to stay clear of their waters.
The Yumi Shoal falls within the Philippine exclusive economic zone. Request to stay clear from our passage in accordance with the Malaysia regulation. Over.
When the Philippine vessel closed in on the mouth of the shoal, the Chinese ship blocked its way. Philippine officials said they reversed their ship's direction and shut the engine to avoid a collision. They left the area shortly thereafter. Philippine officials occasionally invite journalists to join their patrols in the disputed waters.
The hopeful signs of a lull in plenty in Sudan. The nation's military and the rapid support forces have agreed to extend the current ceasefire by another 72 hours. But multiple truce efforts have been broken since fighting began. Even now, violence is still rocking parts of the country. Explosions and gunfire rang out yesterday in the capital of Khartoum and the western region of Darfur. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the ceasefire, though imperfect, has managed to reduce violence. Still, Washington is urging its citizens to leave, saying the situation there is unlikely to improve amid violations to the truce.
We're working very closely with the State Department to identify the number of Americans who want to leave Sudan. As of right now, the indications that we have is that those numbers are relatively small. However, we do recognize that that could change quickly. So, as previously stated, we have focused our efforts on support
to overland routes. We are obviously a planning organization. We're not ruling out any options.
Sudan is facing a worsening humanitarian crisis. A third of its population was already reliant on aid even before the fighting began. The United Nations is warning the violence has plunged millions more into hunger. More than 2/3 of hospitals and comfort zones have also reportedly stopped operating. The situation has triggered a mass exodus of both foreigners and locals alike.
From one desperate situation to another, these Sudanese refugees create a danger for an uncertain safety in Chad. They are among thousands who have spilled over Sudan's border, sparking a refugee crisis in neighboring countries. The shabby camps are a threat of their own, exposing the displaced to hazardous weather. There's also a lack of food and water.
الأطفال عندنا بحثر هسه أنا تشي برا هم الأتين يا أتام عندي قادرة 7 سنة يوم قادرة.
Back in Sudan, foreigners are racing against time to leave before the army and rapid response forces resume all-out war. China has sent its navy to pick up citizens, so far rescuing more than 1,000. Beijing claims it has the largest number of organized evacuees in Sudan. At the port in Jeddah, more ships carrying evacuees have arrived. They hail from many nations. Indonesia says more than 500 nationals have arrived in the Saudi city, while Malaysia reports that its 30 citizens who were trapped in Sudan have reached the port and will return home on Friday. Inside Sudan, there is no respite to the violence. Army planes have been spotted carrying out airstrikes on RSF positions. Artillery hit near this house in Omdurman, punching holes in the walls. A mother of 5 was killed when a shrapnel pierced her heart. And in the capital Khartoum, residents risk their lives to seek bread. Others line up for petrol. Witnesses say the security situation is deteriorating quickly. Fighters are reportedly robbing houses, and thousands of inmates are on the streets after jailbreaks in all the city's 5 prisons.
الحياة غير مساعدة يعني ما قالوا بالنسبة للمواطن خدمات بصورة عامة كده على مستوى الأمة العام تردي جدا جدا يعني في انعدام بالنسبة للحياة المعيشية والخبز وما مجهزين وبنزين يعني كل يوم يعني أزمة حتى المواطن السوداني هو اللي ساكن في الحكومة الناس كلها يحاولوا يخرجوا من حالهم في الأوضاع المعيشية المتردية.
While foreign governments race to evacuate their nationals, there is no option but to weather the war for the Sudanese that they are leaving behind.
The US has added new sanctions on state-run agencies in Russia and Iran for, quote, wrongfully detaining Americans. Sanctions target Russia's FSM intelligence agency and Iran's Revolutionary Guard. State Secretary Antony Blinken called the US action a clear and direct warning of the consequences that followed wrongful detention of Americans overseas. But the sanctions are largely symbolic, since both agencies have already been hit with punitive measures by the US government in the past. President Biden urged both countries to let their hostages go, calling their actions unacceptable. The announcement came as Russia's foreign ministry rejected a request from US officials in Moscow to visit jailed Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich. Mr. Gershkovich is being held in Russia on spying charges. The US is also seeking the release of Paul Wheeler, a former US Marine sentenced to prison for alleged spying. In Iran, at least 3 US citizens are being held in prisons.
Let's look ahead. Amazon delivers strong results, beating expectations across the board. With the latest results in a big week for big tech, we'll unwrap the latest earnings scorecards with TD Ameritrade's Alex Coffey. Plus, the DOJ is set to hand down its first decision on the newly appointed governor, Zero Leader. This, as data released this morning, points to a sticky inflation problem in Tokyo.
The PLA Navy is making tremendous and impressive progress.
把这个科技技术掌握在自己手中，这代表着我们把核心的供应链掌握在自己手中。And the goal over the next 5 years is to continue this expansion of nuclear power. There will be about 6 to 8 nuclear power unit generations approved every year.
这是我们连第一次和媒体正面交锋。朝鲜战争以前不敢开，那么现在，
Again, this is another over the years, things have evolved quite drastically. It looks kind of nerdy. Like today, the urban farming scene is very different.
Bring macro-urban talks back into everyone's life.
We are entering a great new world. This is a superfood. This is a future food. I'm here to map this wave of innovation.
And today, I'm receiving a farmer.
Growing well. Tonight on CNA.
The assumption is that the homeless person might have done something wrong. It's a more complex issue.
sleep apnea and the dangers it poses.
There can be repeated dips in the oxygen level, sometimes down to as low as 60%.
A pillow that might help snorers.
They make a magnetic interference field.
And how sleep, or the lack of it, affects our spinal health.
During your sleep, the body regenerates tissues, even rehydrate part of the spine.
On the Pulse, Saturday, CNA.
In June, Shanghai declared victory in its fight against COVID-19. But a harsh 2-month lockdown left the city scarred.
我要抛下我在上海的一切东西，我就无论如何一定要离开。这个信任确实是很受打击。
Al-Qaeda's zero-COVID role model turned into a nightmare, reliving the Great Shanghai Lockdown. Wednesday on CNA.
A business update now. Consumer prices inching higher in Japan's capital, moving back towards 40-year highs after a brief decline. At Tokyo, core CPI rose 3.5% on year in April, beating expectations that inflation would remain steady from the prior month at 3.2%. Of the latest data is set likely signal more pressure on the Bank of Japan to tighten policy this year. The DOJ is set to hand out its first policy decision under Governor Ueda this morning. I'll take a look at the reactions right now. But the Japanese yen moving higher slightly against the greenback, while the Nikkei moving up by about 0.7%. Taking a look at the rest of Asian markets, Kospi moving higher about 0.3%. As a South Korea's factory output jumped in March by the fastest rate in nearly 3 years, and it also beat economists' expectations. Industrial output grew 5.1% in March from the month before. Australia's SX 200, that is up by about 0.4%, boosted by energy stocks. New Zealand is up by 0.5%. US tech giants have delivered strong earnings results for the first 3 months of the year. From Alphabet, Microsoft to Meta and Amazon, all of them saw their stocks popping higher after they beat on the top and bottom lines.
to drive growth amid worries over tech downturns and recessions. But these fears still remain vivid as the tech giants have unleashed an unprecedented wave of job cuts to reduce costs. A quarter into the record layoffs, investors are scrutinizing if the cost cuts boosted these companies' profits to their satisfaction. Apple will also deliver its scorecard next week. And Alex Coffey, senior trading strategist at TD Ameritrade, joins us now. Your assessment of big tech earnings this week after Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, all heading in better than expected scorecards. Do you think the tech rally is enough to lift the U.S. indices?
It certainly has been this week. First off, thanks for having me. But yeah, no doubt, it has been a blowout week for mega cap tech companies here in the U.S. Primarily Microsoft and Meta platforms notably standing out. Microsoft impressively was actually able to expand its margins in its quarter. Not something we can say for many of the others, but it does seem, as you mentioned, Meta platforms as well, continues its massive run off of its lows of last fall and winter, as it shifts away from massive investment into things like the metaverse, into more targeted spending into artificial intelligence. Of course, it's a shift to a year of efficiency, as Mark Zuckerberg has coined, has really been favored by the street. Of course, that has come with, of course, some ancillary decisions such as layoffs that has really clouded this space. But all in all, on balance, some of the biggest companies in the world reporting really impressive quarters. Although in the case of Amazon, we do see margins start to be squeezed and a little bit of concern of deceleration as the rally for Amazon after I was completely unwound with the company's leadership talked about slowing starts to April so far in cloud spending.
Yeah, a common theme that has emerged from the results, AI, cloud, digital ads, those appear to be doing quite well. Why is that?
Yeah, first off, I think we're talking about industry leaders when we're talking about the cloud space in particular. AWS and Amazon is the leader in that space. Microsoft and Azure, of course, now Google, kind of round out the top three. We're talking about really impressive companies in terms of scale and market position. Notably, we did see Alphabet, also kind of commonly referred to as Google still, its former name, did actually show its first profitable quarter in cloud. But impressively, we have started to see a stabilization in digital ad spend as well. YouTube was also showing growth in its shorts, which has been, of course, a new effort for the company in order to kind of stave off competition from companies like Meta and, of course, more recently TikTok. So it does seem that, at least in the case of digital marketing, digital ad spend, we have seen a pretty impressive beginning of a recovery, but still a ways to go in terms of getting back to where it once was.
Yeah, it appears that, the big tech has weathered the Fed's rate hikes pretty well. Those cost-cutting measures seem to have worked. Do you think the worst is over for big tech?
This week leads us to feel that way, at least in some capacity. Of course, we'll hear from Apple next week, and also we'll hear from the Fed themselves next week as well. But we do have to, of course, realize that most of these companies did take pretty severe haircuts last year. We watched a company like Meta Platforms, for example, go from nearly $400 a share down to almost below 90 a share before recovering really impressively. Similar stories unwound in names like Amazon and in names like Alphabet to a lesser extent. But the recoveries have also been to a lesser extent, as both of those names well off their all-time highs. Companies like Microsoft, companies like Apple have been a little bit more resilient than we may expect. Market leaders in their spaces, particularly Apple, dominating kind of the North American smartphone market. Its move into services has been impressive. But yeah, it has been, of course, interesting to watch these companies as well as their peers within tech navigate a completely different macro market environment. And now we enter into a second half of this year that has many calls and analysts
basically predictions for slowing growth and recession potentially on the horizon. That'll be interesting as well.
Yeah, so how badly do you think a recession could hit these tech firms in the later part of the year? We are expecting recession not exactly to be a very deep one, but how could tech be reacting to that? What is the trajectory you think they will be going on?
Yeah, it's sort of a twofold kind of reaction you have to expect, especially when you're talking about a name like Apple, for example, or a name like Microsoft, for example. Of course, they both sit on pretty massive cash positions. They have been relatively strong through many different market environments. They have strong market positions, as I've said a handful of times. Because they have those strong market positions, they tend to be able to perform okay even in downturns. But that doesn't mean that they're going to be immune to any weakness. They could potentially outperform even in a down market just by simply going down less, if that is the reaction that we see within the market. But we also have to assess what an economic slowdown may mean for interest rates and monetary policy, both here in the U.S. but also globally. There is many expectations for potentially this next week's meeting for the Federal Reserve, of course, to get one more hike of 25 basis points in the U.S. federal funds rate. But then after that, potentially a pause, and even calls for cuts in reaction to what could be what you, of course, refer to as a mild recession, or potentially even worse, depending on ultimately how things unfold.
Well, Alex, thanks for joining us on the show this morning. Alex Coffey, Senior Trading Strategist at TD Ameritrade. And I'll be back with more in the next hour. You can get your business updates anytime across all of our CNA platforms here on Asia Fest TV, on Radio CNA 938, and on digital CNA.Asia/business. Here in Steve, to you.
All right, Liz, thank you very much. Coming up on Asia First, we explore why security experts in South Korea are welcoming the so-called Washington Declaration in the deterrent the North nuclear threat.
And on today's CNA Plus, we get an in-depth look at how China's People's Liberation Army is gearing up for what President Xi Jinping has called the dangerous storms.
Warm memories wherever you go. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Here's another look at our top stories. South Korean President hails Seoul's stronger than ever alliance with Washington in his address to the US Congress. He stresses the need to speed up cooperation with America and Japan to counter North Korea's growing nuclear threat.
We must work together and fight the forces of forceful and deception that seek to destroy democracy and the rule of law.
Sudan's army and rival paramilitary forces agreed to extend an existing ceasefire with pressure from Saudi Arabia and the U.S. Foreign powers seeking to quell fighting urged the implementation of a de-escalation plan for peace.
Plus, Spain may be suffering through its hottest April on record, temperatures as high as 40 degrees Celsius. This adding to the devastation of a prolonged drought that's said to be the driest in 1,000 years. Circling back to one of our top stories this morning, the US and South Korea's new pact, so-called Washington Declaration, pledges to give Seoul more insight into a potential nuclear retaliation should North Korea launch an attack.
But a key aspect of the deal reaffirms that South Korea will not pursue a nuclear weapons program of its own. CNA's Kim Hyun-suk unpacks the agreement.
The USS Ronald Reagan carrier docked at South Korea's port city of Busan last September. And only last month, the United States sent its Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier and its battle group for bilateral maritime exercises with South Korea's warships. Now, under the Washington Declaration, South Koreans will get to see not just a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, but a nuclear-armed submarine in the country for the first time in 40 years. Many experts in Seoul welcomed the Washington Declaration, with some saying it could help put the brakes on North Korea's nuclear ambitions.
미국이 얼마나 이 전술 핵 무기들을 한반도에 배치하지는 않지만 핵항모라든지 이런 것을 실사 부수적으로 운용하는 결과에 따라서 북한의 대응 논리가 나오고 있습니다만 잠시 북한은 핵 지차 실험을 비롯한 모든 핵 정책, 핵권이 좀 브레이크를 밟고 휴면기에 들어갈 가능성은 높다고 봅니다.
Mr. An, a former North Korean soldier who defected to South Korea more than 40 years ago, said it is possible that the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un could now soften his hostile posture towards South Korea.
남북 간의 어떤 대치나 핵 대결이 또 악화될 가능성도 없지 않지만 북한도 나름대로 자신들의 생존 전략으로서 미국과의 정면 대결을 피해야 됩니다. 이게 북한의 대결인데 이번에 미국이 한반도의 핵을 직접 전개하지 않지만 그 대응 논리로서 시적 배치를 언급했기 때문에 김정은도 무모하지 않는 한 더 정세를 긴장시키는 일을 차지할 것 같습니다.
Inside South Korea's National Assembly, President Yoon's ruling party applauded the Washington Declaration, calling it a major win for South Korea. But the main opposition Democratic Party warned that Washington's nuclear commitment could further aggravate the situation.
핵 문제는 힘을 키우는 방향과 위험을 줄이는 방향, 동전의 양면과 같은 것으로 취사 선택할 수 있는 문제가 아닙니다. 그럼에도 불구하고 윤석열 대통령은 마치 핵이면 모든 문제가 해결된다는 듯이 행동하고 있습니다. 심히 우려스럽습니다.
As South Korea and the United States celebrate 70 years of alliance this year, a survey conducted before President Yoon left for Washington showed about 55% of the 1,010 people polled did not think his U.S. trip will help South Korea's security situation. North Korea has conducted an unprecedented number of missile tests last year, and the momentum has not slowed in 2023. The Washington Declaration may offer some assurances of U.S. commitment to South Korea's security. It remains to be seen whether Pyongyang will be impressed. Lim Yasuk, CNA, Seoul.
CNA spoke to General In Mung-jun from the Institute for Security and Development Policy, and he explains how the new deal between the US and South Korea deters threats from Pyongyang.
The Washington Declaration, or the summit, encompasses a very comprehensive, wide range of cooperation between the United States and Korea. And one of those is the security situation, which can be summed up in two areas. Number one, We're going to create a new nuclear consultative group. And secondly, more presence and demonstration of American deterrent assets to the Korean Peninsula. So for the nuclear consultative group, it will be able to discuss matters of interest between the two countries concerning the employment of nuclear deterrence against North Korea, and therefore, with better understanding, it will lead to a better deterrence on the Korean Peninsula, as well as the presence and demonstrations of U.S. assets to the Korean Peninsula. This will also fortify the will. But I think the most significant message that we must listen to is the fact that if North Korea uses nuclear weapons, it'll be the end of the North Korean regime. Having nuclear weapons, American nuclear weapons on Korean soil might sound reassuring, but it will bring with it its own set of problems. For one thing, Korea is not big enough to have these nuclear weapons. In the past, we did have American nuclear weapons, but that was when North Korea didn't have any nuclear weapons, so it's a whole different ballgame. So having American nuclear weapons on the Korean Peninsula might not be that great of an idea. Having said that, because of the fluctuations in American politics, because of the changes that can always happen, Koreans right now are seeking a more secure situation, which might be nuclear weapons for its own decision. Now, with the process of extended deterrence that is provided by the United States, it is understood that the ultimate decision to use American nuclear weapons will be upon the American commander-in-chief, who is the president of the United States. So that should be understood and taken, and we should trust that. But having said that, still again, there are notions that it's not enough.
Well, India has struck a firm stance on its border dispute with China. Defense ministers from the two nations meet for the first time since a deadly clash between their armies 3 years ago.
The talks took place in New Delhi ahead of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting, which is due to begin today. Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh says all issues on the border must be resolved in accordance with existing bilateral agreements. He accused China of violating acts resulting in worsening ties between the two nations. Mr. Singh also urged Beijing to disengage from the border and de-escalate tensions.
But China and India have been arguing over their border in the Himalayas since the 1950s. A fatal clash between their forces took place in Galwan Valley 3 years ago. At least 20 Indian and 4 Chinese soldiers were killed.
It was the most significant armed conflict between the two Asian powers in decades. New Delhi has maintained that ties with Beijing cannot be normal until there is peace at the border.
The China's People's Liberation Army is modernizing fast. It's the biggest army in the world, with more than 2 million soldiers and the largest number of ships in its naval fleet. Its military budget this year of $225 billion is larger than that of India's, Japan's, South Korea's, and Australia's combined.
President Xi has tasked the army to prepare for what he calls dangerous storms. A new 3-part documentary series examines what he means by that, with the first episode looking at the PLA's operations in depth. Here's a short preview.
In a desert in northwest China, a missile brigade of the PLA rocket force is on a live fire drill. They're firing new missiles with advanced warheads, enabling accurate hits on targets hundreds of kilometers away. These men have been tasked to take half the usual time to carry out the missile launching.
对方的政府。
In other desert locations, China is building more than 100 new silos for intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs. That's according to reports from security analysts released in 2022. For years, China maintained a minimal nuclear arsenal with only about 20 ICBMs, while Russia and the US had thousands of nuclear warheads. This is now rapidly changing. A Pentagon report states that China now has more than 400 nuclear warheads, approximately doubling its nuclear arsenal in just 2 years. And China could have 1,500 nuclear warheads by 2035.
中国为什么在扩大自己的核力量？
这个没办法，这是现实情况，也确实如此。你比俄罗斯现在对吧，在常规战场上打成这个样子，出乎他意料，对吧？不顺利。如果他没有原子弹的话，他没有核武器的话，他现在不可以怎么样？有用的，至少你不敢直接出兵，至少你给武器的时候，你也得掂量掂量，不能给最好的武器，对吧？一点点挤压，对吧？还有就是你要他的命。他把他就是像希特勒一样的，以后搞个什么审判啊，什么的，上法庭弄的什么萨达姆什么卡达菲这样的下场，他可能能保证，对吧？这个核武器保证他上来领导的不会政治领袖人不能落得这么一个下场，国家也不会被这个完全被释放武力，对吧？
China is currently undergoing what for China is quite a large and dramatic expansion of its nuclear arsenal, but I would not consider this an aggressive action by China, because the Chinese are starting at such a low level with such a small number of nuclear weapons that even with a rapid expansion, a large expansion, they will achieve only a partial catch-up with the two nuclear superpowers, the USA and Russia. Specifically, China now has 400 nuclear warheads. They might have 1,500 by the year 2035. But the United States and Russia both have over 5,000. Having said that, there are some ways that this still increases geopolitical tensions. From the point of view of most of the rest of the world, any of those three countries having a lot more nuclear warheads is not a positive thing.
Preparing for Dangerous Storms premieres tomorrow at 9 p.m. on CNA. It runs through Sunday and Monday.
The series is also available through video on demand at CNA.Asia and later on CNA Insider's YouTube channel.
And time for a break now. Still ahead on Asia First. NATO says Ukraine's allies have made good on their promises to deliver combat vehicles to the war-torn country.
Plus, Spain is set to end its hottest April on record as an unusually early heat wave hits the country.
Over the years, things have evolved quite drastically. It looks kind of dirty. Like today, the urban farming scene is very different. Bringing back urban homesteading to everyone's life. We are entering a brave new world. This is a superfood. This is a future food. We grow it here. I'm here to ride this wave of living innovation. And today, I'm a seaweed farmer growing well. Tonight on CNA.
This May, traverse from the melting of Asia's urbanization to the calm realm of its natural wonder. Journalist John Lee rediscovers her roots in the world's K-pop capital and examines how the city continues to evolve.
There's this tension of old videos.
Deciphering South Korea, a rich and diverse world of outstanding wildlife in a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Singapore Botanic Gardens, like you've never seen it before. 1 year in the gardens. A world without elephants or turtles. Who are the trailblazing environmentalists making it their life's mission to save these species? The mass extinction. This May on CNN. Next time on Japan Hour, Saturday on CNA. Japan Hour is brought to you by Sumitomo Corporation. And sit there, some affairs now available with daily flights.
遇到现在这么多的挑战，逼着我们靠自己。
把这个推进掌握在自己手中，这代表着我们把核心的供应链掌握在自己手中。
这是国内第一次合肥生产煤球炮。
好的，再见。你先展开。那么现在。
One last cheer.
One family, one everything.
One last look. One last show.
Victor is elected, whether he perform or not, we are not quite sure.
One last thought at the jury power. Losing Highlights. Sunday on CNA.
Welcome back. Ukraine's allies making good on their promises of military aid.
NATO says more than 98% of combat vehicles promised to Kyiv have been delivered ahead of the highly anticipated spring counteroffensive against the Russians.
Overall, through the contact group led by the United States, NATO allies and partners have provided unprecedented support to Ukraine. More than 98% of the combat vehicles promised to Ukraine have already been delivered. That means over 1,550 armored vehicles, 230 tanks and other equipment, including vast amounts of ammunition. In total, we have trained and equipped more than 9 new Ukrainian armored brigades. This will put Ukraine in a strong position to continue to retake occupied territory.
On the ground, the battle for Bakhmut drags on. Russia claims its troops have made some advances, taking 4 blocks in the eastern city. Moscow has been looking to capture Bakhmut for months, but Kyiv soldiers are hanging tight.
Over in the southern city of Mykolaiv, at least one person has been killed and 23 others injured after Russia shelling. President Volodymyr Zelensky tweeted that houses, a store building, and a high-rise building were targeted in the attack.
Kyiv is now hoping to gain an upper hand in the air. President Volodymyr Zelensky has called on the UK to take a lead role in forming what he calls an air coalition to help Ukraine receive military aircraft. That's after a meeting in Kyiv with Britain's National Security Advisor Timothy Barrow. Sheldon Butler tells us why the jets are so crucial.
President Zelensky continues to call for modern fighter jets. Ukraine and Ukrainian Air Force has asked in particular for the US F-16s. And I recently spoke.
Shareholders from problems. It was the late Norman Vincent Peale who said every problem has in it the seeds of its own solution. If you don't have any problems, you don't have any seeds.
The thing about works of art is that they're still, and they're silence, and they're beautiful.
Beautiful and silent keepers of history that would help Patrick Bringley see the world differently, processing his inconsolable grief within these galleries.
Grief is a loss of rhythm. It's,
astronaut training for the Olympics, but that's not what's really happening here.
For the ISS, you want a rigid
just keep moving forward. You know, you can never stand still. And that was my thing. Just never be still. Never get too focused on the now and just, you know, looking forward to, you know, what's to come.
PG back up in the BBC News. I think I echo everyone and my colleagues here. We are so happy. Thank you. And I don't know if it was timed with your availability today, but you may know that the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal put out an act demanding the release of Evan Gershon today, right? So during your detention, were you aware of all the efforts on your behalf, of the hashtag #WeArePG, and what message would you send Evan and Pauline today?
Yes, I was aware. There was a little bit of a delay in getting news sometimes, but I was aware of the efforts and everything that was going on. I was able to see pictures sometimes of different things, the WeArePG. So just knowing that and having that, just being aware of what was going on when, you know, you don't know anything. You're there, you're sitting there, and you're like, okay, I know people are fighting for me or bringing awareness to what's going on. And then those times where I was able to see what was going on, it definitely, you know, it made it a little more comfortable. Just keep pushing. We're not going to stop. We're not going to stop fighting. We're not going to stop bringing awareness to everyone that's left behind right now. It's you and Freddie with CBS News. First of all, welcome back. Researcher again. I was wondering if you could explain a little bit about what your ordeal did for your mental and physical health, and what your journey has been to get back to the place where you are now when you're about to embark on a season. You know, it was strange, and coming back from basically, you know, doing nothing, not having any jail or anything to be at. Getting back into it was hard. It's still a process. You know, just the little things. I mean, doing a plank, you know, was so simple before, and couldn't even stay up very long, you know, and just a regular plank when I first came back. Because as an athlete, you always want to be where you left off. And I left off playoffs, you know, finals, Chicago. And I wanted to be that player when I started back. And just everybody telling me to give myself grace and it's going to take time. But that's the hardest thing to do to a pro athlete, because you always want to be right back at a tip-top shape. So it's been a struggle, but like I said, it's liberating as well. At the same time, just as a release, just getting back to my craft, and then being here in Phoenix, you know, my coaches and my teammates really supporting me, you know, at every step of the way on the court. So it's been pretty good.
Hi, Brittany. I am Stephanie Eel with CNN, and first of all, I have to say there's a great amount of lightness around you, which I think is kind of shocking considering what you've been through. It's extraordinary. I'm curious if the desire to play overseas in the off season is a need or a want, and if that is something that needs to be addressed, and if it is a need, what do you think needs to be addressed about it?
Well, I can say for me,
rain there on clear to leave just drizzly and breaks. Elsewhere, the clouds will break to give some sunny spells, but scattering of heavy showers will develop by lunchtime. It will feel pleasantly warm in the sunshine, cool again under the cloud. In the afternoon, we'll see sunshine developing more widely with heavy showers, mostly affecting Ireland and Northern Ireland.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Still ahead at the top of the hour, special reports revealed evidence of a growing trend of school bullies filming attacks on other pupils to share on social media.
Find the device with the bomb intel.
Enemy shooter.
Another round!
Activate the device and retrieve the bomb coordinates. Disarm the bomb.
Contact.
This is Sky News. Children who perform attacks on other children for likes and notoriety. So, pay attention, social media. Sudan's army agrees to extend the ceasefire to thousands scrambles to flee the fight.
Contact the base and wait for reinforcements. Connection to base established. Stay in the designated zone and await reinforcements.
Nurses' strikes are curtailed by force as a judge rules next week's walkout.
This is the largest day in this experience so far.
Documents released by Prince Harry between the palace and newsgroup newspapers appear to show Queen Elizabeth was fully aware of phone hacking. evidence that police set up violent attacks.
Marksman, get down!
The National Bullying Helpline says it's a sickening and escalating problem where a child is humiliated. But it warns that schools and the police are often slow to realize and not
Capture and hold the area.
Enemy sighted!
Used itself.
انتبهوا قنبلة يدوية!
Billy, the half-brother and legal guardian of the girl who was attacked, says this is becoming a dangerous arrangement.
I don't believe the system has any long-running rivalry within the school. I believe this was created solely for the content of the internet.
So it's just a random attack so that people could post it online and show off. You think it is a craze?
It is a craze, yeah. It's happening all over the country now.
The National Bullying Helpline told Sky News this is indeed an escalating and deeply troubling national trend.
Do the children realise that this is a criminal offence, beating somebody up? The police and the schools have got to take more action.
For safeguarding reasons, we've decided not to name the school in Rochdale near where the attack happened. But parents tell us there have been several similar attacks just at this one school. Here, inside the premises, a girl secretly starts recording. We've reduced the audio to protect identities, but a verbal assault leads up to a physical one. The school we're not naming told us it takes its duty of care extremely seriously, and there is a robust limit to disclosures on student safety. The incidents we've highlighted are subject to ongoing inquiries. Sky News understands the attack on this 13-year-old is now being investigated by the police, but the National Bullying Helpline says schools and authorities are failing to keep pace with this growing UK-wide problem. Jason Farrell, Sky News.
Elsewhere, Sudan's army has agreed to extend the fragile ceasefire in the country for a further 72 hours as the scramble to escape continues. But British nationals still stuck in Sudan have been told to move as soon as possible if they want to leave. So far, nearly 900 have been flown to safety. Tens of thousands of people in total have already left the country in the past few days, with 16,000 alone crossing the border into Egypt. One of the routes out of Sudan is by boat to the Jeddah Islamic port in Saudi Arabia. Our African correspondent Yusra Akhir was there when one boat reached safety, and unknown to her, one of her relatives was on board. HMS Dive comes into vision. Dive means protected, encircled, just like those on board.
It's just unbelievable. The ships slowly pulling in. You start to see people's features, you see that
The submarine is leaving the harbor. Let HQ worry about it. Heat signatures are showing that there's some production equipment in one of the hangars.
The violent wars of Sudan, any other country in the world. And as they approach Jeddah shores, searching for David Yeats up to body of 1,300 miles.
Enemy shooter!
The body of the man was recovered from one resident. Our Scotland correspondent Conor Guinness reports suggesting that his report that's intended to be.
She was the last one teacher who devoted her life to children, not to be murdered.
Extract data from the control terminal.
She was killed, and there was a manhunt to find him.
I can confirm exactly how
Repel the enemy! Protect the equipment!
thoughts of Maria's family and friends, and I'll align everyone affected by this.
But this investigation took detectives to woodlands 10 miles away. This vast area, the place that far belonging to Yates, was discovered. This is an investigation to use this equipment for complex requirements. After at the school where Morel worked.
Eyes on a gunman!
Describe Morel as kind, diligent, talented, and considerate. Someone who made time for everyone.
Eyes on a gunman!
Fitting tribute as murder detective. Connor Gillis.
Reloading! Come on, son! Gas! Enemy support!
Starting from Sunday evening, the NHS underground department final day of the walkout was not 6-month industrial action on head of the RCM Park Colour.
Investigate the next hangar.
Sky's health correspondent.
Defiant and confident. But while there was a strong union presence outside the High Court, inside there was nobody to argue the necessaries. The High Court ruled
Disarm the ball.
Sunday evening, not extended to Tuesday. And
New target!
flashback! The outcome was inevitable.
They are plenty more determined. I think a government that brought across the court with for the negotiations rule that called me people that don't know how to respectfully sit together and search for a solution.
Shooter sighted!
Another unit. The government said it could address it.
Shooter down! Contact!
Hostile spotted.
Eliminate the remaining enemies.
Private email was released by Prince Harry between Buckingham Palace and senior executives of newspaper newspapers, which appeared to show the late Queen was fully aware of the extent of the impact of phone hacking on the royal family, that negotiations were taking place. The documents emerged on the final day.
Investigate the lab. Find any. Return to base. HQ will track the submarine. Out the rear may be working with someone outside the region. Meanwhile, another mission is awaiting you in Carhad.
Prince Harry hasn't made it to court, but we know he's followed the proceedings closely as he accuses the Sun and the News of the World of phone hacking. Other senior royals were targeted at the time, and to that, Harry's released more sensitive emails from the palace to the paper's executives, Rebecca Brooks and Robert Thompson. They show how much the late Queen was involved. In July 2017, Sally Osman, the Queen's head of communications, emails them confidentially with the Queen's full authority and knowledge of the scale and effect of hacking and surveillance on her family. The family wants an apology. In December, Sally emails about that unfinished business. I do hope that we can reach an understanding that resets the relationship, she says, adding, the Queen is aware that we have spoken. But the palace hears nothing. In March 2018, Sally emails, I was somewhat disappointed not to receive an acknowledgement, let alone a reply. She says frustrations increasing by the lack of response or willingness to engage. Sally threatens legal action, but there's no movement. And in May, she emails the growing concern our request is not being taken seriously. But Prince Harry is serious with this legal action, along with the actor Hugh Grant, who alleges phone hacking, blagging, and even burglaries to order. They're fighting for a trial with the tabloids.
If it goes to trial, that would be a significant departure from what has up until now been the norm of the royal family, meant to go into the witness box.
With fanfare, the rest of the family are preparing for the coronation, the king presenting new military standards and colours. And the Prince and Princess of Wales dropping in on the Brecon beacons. It feels a world away from Harry's court case. William's settled, but his brother still has a long way to go. Laura Bundon, Sky News.
Gambling firms will be forced to introduce more safeguards to help prevent people getting addicted as part of the biggest reform and regulation of the industry for 2 decades. Affordability checks will be brought in, and there's to be a state limit for online slot betting, with greater protection for people aged between 18 and 24 who are considered more vulnerable. But there's no change, though, to rules over advertising and sports, which has disappointed campaigners. Our business correspondent Gurpreet Nawal reports.
The odd bet here and there, but for some, the consequences are great.
It was a huge win I had when I was 29, life-changing money, and unfortunately it led me into the deep dark despair of the gambling addiction. I just don't understand in 2023 how this is still being allowed to continue. It's a bit like smoking 40, 50 years ago.
Policymakers have finally taken action, publishing a long-awaited white paper that will crack down on a thriving industry.
We need a new approach that recognises a flutter as well.
Establish contact with the convoy. Find and set up the transmitter.
Among the policies outlined are and maximum stakes for online slot machines of £2 per game higher than £15 for everyone else.
22.5 million customers who take part in betting and gaming activities regularly and on a monthly basis.
The first transmitter has been set up. Protect it.
With its evidence-based and its balance. But we will be working with the government to implement the changes that they've put forward.
Welcome. Wait just yet. Many of these policies will allow implementation.
Get down! Get down! Subject, yes, subject, yes. Counting! Reloading!
New report has warned that history could repeat itself.
Get down! Get down!
To learn the lessons from the investigations,
It's much better!
he drugged his four victims, he dumped their bodies.
Tango spot! Incoming! Reloading!
Make your way to the second transmitter. Establish contact with the convoy.
The other three men might still be alive. Corresponding station.
Reloading!
His Majesty's inspectors of constabulary found a number of areas where the net failed 8 years ago and have kept on failing.
The second transmitter has been set up. Protect it.
For not enough training for the junior officers who get feedback. Three of Stephen Ford's four
Convoy is approaching, and escort its advancement.
Same location, this graveyard here. Please connect the dots. Jenny and Donna's brother just reports finding
We've not been able to bring it down. Because all we've ever done is have to fire, and we're still finding things done. We're still and show accountability.
The Met Police arrested Anthony Walgate, Gabrielle Cavari, Daniel Whitworth, and Jack Taylor were a tragedy. And we're sincerely sorry for all of them and their families. I can report to their loved ones' deaths. This latest report brings home the agony of knowing how little has changed in the last 8 years. And it must be more murders. Rebels.
What is coming up? Action on the training of Newcastle Internal.
Changing back!
Wilson.
convoy. Timer started.
They're taking a slide like smoke. Eyes on the ghost.
Enemy disable the charge. Reactivate it.
Marksman second best.
Defend your position. Don't let the enemy disarm the device.
First aid kit. Reloading. Backpack. Contact grenade. One less. I need a medic. Get up already.
Enemy disable the charge. Reactivate it. Defend your position. Don't let the enemy disarm the device.
My name is Khadija, and I train as a jockey, and this is the day of my life to
I need a medic. RPG.
Ramadan is a time in your life to really simplify and break down what it needs to be. Of course, I want to be riding out and a routine check discipline. So we come in and get the horses in, tap out, grab your equipment, get on. Can you explain what seri is? It's a meal just before Fajr, which is just before sunrise. Muhammad encouraged us to eat a small meal so we can keep going.
That China as a market is extremely important to the industry. The auto show also saw global CEOs return to the stage. Many took advantage of taking their new models for new technologies. A noticeable trend this year is that more automakers have their eye on China's electric vehicle or new energy vehicles.
More than 1,000 companies took part in this year's event. Of the more than 1,400 cars on display, around 500 were new energy vehicles. NEVs also accounted for 2/3 of the 150 vehicles to debut in Shanghai. China's electric vehicle industry is developing quickly and winning the international market.
After less than 2 years of development, BYD's new energy passenger cars have been exported to 51 countries and regions around the world.
A prompt for traditional fuel automakers to shift direction.
The market does develop very quickly into the direction of electrification. We cope with that, we changed, or we are working on our strategy, so we bring more electric models in China.
The passenger car market in China has experienced some turbulence.
The submarine is leaving the harbor. Let HQ worry about it. Heat signatures are showing that there's some production equipment in one of the hangars.
Auto sales will grow by around 3% nationally this year, reaching about 27.6 million cars.
And I just want to to reiterate, even during the toughest times in COVID, China has shown such resilience. The market has been quite stable, not like other countries. And we are very positive on the development of the Chinese market, and there's enough room to grow. Hands up,
Let's get going!
We've got a job to do.
Extract data from the control room. Repel the enemy. Protect the equipment. Shooter eliminated!
Enemy sighting! First aid kit!
Signature dish.
Shooter sighting!
It has earned a spot in the museum.
Security is what the Belt Road Initiative. Another one shows how one rail line is providing important trade link between China and Central Asia.
Collaboration between China and Central Asia. Since its launch in 2013, the China Express more than 4,200 trips between the northwestern Chinese city of Xi'an and Central Asia, connecting major cities and regions of the five Central Asian countries. And in the past decade, the freight service has undergone major changes.
我刚开始的前几年呢，应该是从法
Just a great making machine. In recent years, the exports into Asia gradually diversified to include consumer electronics, smartphones, photovoltaic products, and other electronic products.
Similarly, the goods coming from Central Asia to China have also changed. From cotton yarn to various goods such as string beads, wheat, honey, leather, and meat products. This demonstrates recent trade exchanges between China and the 5 Central Asian countries, which has contributed to their accelerated economic development in the region.
Investigate the next hangar.
Dynasties and the starting point of the ancient world. Along that historical route, Central Asian countries linked China and the West. Now, they play key roles in the modern Belt and Road Initiative. Trade between China and Central Asia reached a record $70 billion last year.
The Shanghai Express has played a significant role in the economic development between China and Central Asia. It has helped to boost trade and investment, as well as improve connectivity and infrastructure in the region.
The Shanghai Express has become an essential mode of transportation for businesses seeking to trade with Central Asian and European markets.
It's ours to belong.
We import wheat and row crops from Kazakhstan to meet the domestic market demand for high-quality grain and row products. Despite Central Asian countries are landlocked, so the export of agricultural products and trade and transportation here is actually
Waiting times for cargo transit.
Boosting employment.
What's my business
The Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security says
To expand employment capacity in various areas, focus on supporting industries and
employment-related financial services for what the ministry describes as economic expansion. Insurance, companies that
Take the remaining enemies.
The ministry says companies will receive a one-off employment subsidy if they hire people who have been registered as unemployed. And it will also ensure that unemployment insurance benefits are paid on time.
The government plans to take action to address some of the ongoing challenges included by
Clear out the lab.
technology experts around the world and discuss new ideas how
Authorities have highlighted the importance of digitization in advancing China's development at the same time.
Return to base. HQ will track the submarine out the rear, maybe working with someone outside the region. Meanwhile, another mission is awaiting you in Carhad.
The summit will help speed up building China into a superpower with new concepts, new ideas, and new measures. and injected strong impetus to embrace the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation on all fronts through a Chinese path to modernization. The summit also showcases the latest achievements and practices in sectors including the digital economy, governance, and world affairs. We must always put people at the center and the focus on inclusiveness by improving digitization in government services, rural revitalization, education and healthcare, employment and startups, as well as elderly care and disability assistance. China has undergone an unprecedented digital transformation that has benefited millions of people. Take the whole city as an example. Official data shows Fuzhou's digital economy more than doubled from 2018 when the forum was first held to 610 billion yuan, or $88 billion in 2022. That accounted for more than 50% of Fuzhou's GDP last year.
Authorities say they believe this year's summit will further push the digital economy and innovation. Nearly 2,000 deals were signed at the last 5 summits, with investment exceeding 1.1 trillion yuan. New energy vehicles are shifting into the lead in the auto industry. Electric cars are receiving much of the focus these days. The fact that it's easily visible to this year's Shanghai Auto Show. Nearly 2/3 of cars debuting at the show were NEVs.
The Shanghai Auto Show attracted an estimated 1 million visitors over a 10-day period. One of the world's most important auto shows give industry insiders, many of them international guests, a glimpse of new automotive trends.
Everyone is looking at Shanghai and the Shanghai Auto Show. I think it demonstrates beyond that China as a market is extremely important to the industry. The auto show also found global CEOs return to the States. Many just activating their new models or new technology. And one of the most thrilling this year is that more automakers have their eye on China's electric vehicles or new energy.
More than 1,000 companies took part in this year's event. Of the more than 1,400 cars on display, around 500 were new energy vehicles. NEVs also accounted for 2/3 of the 150 vehicles to debut in Shanghai. China's electric vehicle industry is developing quickly and winning the international market.
After less than 2 years of development, BYD's new
Reach the main room.
have been exported to 51 countries and regions around the world.
The traditional vehicles shift direction.
Very quickly into the direction of electric
Experienced some turbulence due to fierce price competition. The sales are suddenly China's deciding on the wheel 3% nationally this year, reaching about 27
Action point.
20 headlines from the most populous continents. Crossing focus politics, economies, and justice. From the region and beyond. China Global Television Network.
Chinese cuisine is one of the most popular in the United States. And it's every corner of the country. To the chow mein sandwich. You know, we've got a lot
Helicopter with the enemy commander, take off.
One sitting.
Enemy destroyed. Operation successful.
Okay, now it's very activities it's very different people. It's very different people. Each of them are different. Each of them are different. You play with each different people, you sometimes know some of them are experienced, some of them are not experienced. So it's very interesting. So if you have a regular one, every day so easy, and you very good with a regular. So play with different people, and then you'll be better. Although I'm back, you can see that I'm back already. Okay, during preparation for going to this Changi Airport routes, Changi Airport routes. That's how I to say until under convention. Remember to make the lychee part, the mango part.